Hey folks, Aaron here. Now, I normally don't drop content on a non-release day, but today's special. And to explain why, I want to tell you a quick story, which, after all, is what I do, right? Way back in another era, I was a graphic designer. I ran my own business and I made logos and marketing material for a bunch of companies. And in my spare time and evenings, I was writing novels and self-publishing them. You could think of them as supernatural thrillers with a touch of folklore. And my favorite thing to do when I was writing these novels was to find local folklore. So for me, that means here in New England, and then weave some of those stories into my books. I loved writing fiction, but I also discovered that I really loved finding cool stories or moments in history when folk traditions and beliefs sort of broke through into the real world and had an impact on real lives. Honestly, there's nothing like stumbling upon some event or person from the past and then just basking in the weird, dark material around their story. And it got me thinking. You see, even back then, it was really hard to sell self-published novels. So I hatched this plan where I would give away something really entertaining in order to get folks to sign up for my email list for future books. What I decided to do was write up a few essays about my favorite New England stories with folklore at their heart. Mercy Brown's gruesome exhumation, the haunted Hoosick Tunnel. You get the idea. So I got to work. It took a few weeks, but in the end, I had a document that was about 10,000 words long, and that's when doubt hit me. I'd spent all this time crafting something that I planned to give to people as a PDF, but in the process, I'd made it too long to really enjoy reading on their tiny little smartphones. So I let panic and doubt take control, and I dragged the file for this collection of essays to the trash on my computer. And then, just before I let go, I had a thought. As part of my graphic design work routine, just my daily general life, I often listened to audiobooks while I worked. So I wondered, what if, instead of giving people a big PDF of text, I grabbed a microphone and I recorded these essays and then gave out the audio files. Could I even do that? I had no experience narrating stuff. I didn't know how to produce any sort of audio. Could I really do it? Well, there was only one way to find out. I printed out one of the stories, I sat down in front of a mic, and I read it out loud. And I made mistakes. I wasn't good. I had to start over a number of times. I felt awkward and out of my depth, and honestly, really self-conscious. But I stuck with it, and I figured out how to cut it all together into something that felt a bit like a really small audiobook, and then I sent it to a friend, explained the whole plan with the email list and everything, and I waited. And he told me not to do it. Not to quit, mind you, but not to do the email list giveaway thing. Instead, he told me that the audio sounded more like a podcast, a kind of media that was really growing and becoming great as a space to tell stories. The show called Serial had premiered just a few months earlier, and it had sort of forced the world to reevaluate our expectations for what a podcast could do. What if, he suggested, you did the same thing, release it as a podcast? So I did the things that I knew how to do. I came up with a brand, I designed a simple logo and cover art. I even built a website for the thing. And then I dug into the more mysterious parts, how to create the RSS feed that published the podcast episodes, how to connect it to iTunes, which is what Apple Podcast was known as back then, and how to publish it as an episode. And then I did it. On March 18th of 2015, 10 years ago today, I clicked publish on the first episode of Lore. I didn't have expectations. I had never released a podcast by myself before. I'd never had prior results to compare anything to. So I just sort of held my breath and pushed it out into the world. On the first day, Lore had 9 downloads. 9. I didn't even have enough to make double digits. By mid-April, about a month into the show, I was averaging about 100 downloads each day. It was a hobby, and I was still struggling to fit it into my busy work life, but it was growing, and that felt good. And then the explosion hit. Mid-April saw exponential growth. Suddenly, my daily average jumped from 100 downloads to 8,000, and then it just skyrocketed from there. By July, The show had grown so large that I could take on sponsors, and the income from those ad spots allowed me to quit the design gig altogether and become a full-time podcast producer. A month later, TV offers started to come in. A month after that, the book offers. I went on tour and performed live lore shows for audiences all across the country. It was incredible. It was a blessing. 10 years. I started the show in my late 30s, and I'll turn 50 later this year. My kids have gone from kindergarten to high school. I'm a lot more gray than I used to be. I've worn out a few keyboards along the way, and I've graduated from a blanket fort to an actual professional recording booth. And I've toured the country multiple times with my best bud, Chad Lawson, whose music you hear right now, telling stories to tens of thousands of people while Chad gives them chills with his gorgeous music. To date, Lore has been downloaded over 500 million times. It's a far cry from those first 9 way back in the beginning. 10 years. In that decade, I've gone from doing this thing as a solo artist, figuring out how to do it all in the moment, on the fly, as I go, to running a production company that employs a bunch of other wildly talented researchers and writers. You hear their names in the credits for every episode. Maybe you've met them at a live show, or you follow their other creative endeavors on social media. My Lore team is the best podcast team in the world, and I am blessed and honored to have worked alongside them all this time. 10 whole years. I think the biggest truth or lesson I have held on to all these years is that it pays to not give up. I had this dream of being a full-time writer, and while I'm not a novelist per se, I do spend my days writing and making fun content for all of you. And none of that would have happened if I had let myself delete that file. Sometimes life can feel like you're enduring the weight of 1,000 planets, squeezing out your desire to create, your will to keep going, or your hope and joy. And all I can say to you is that you must hold on. Don't quit, don't falter, and don't delete that file. Sometimes, not always, but sometimes, sticking with it can pay off. Art is a long game. It's not a quick roll of the dice. But 10 years ago today, I took a gamble and I published something that changed my life. And that change was made possible by you. You've listened or watched along the way, you've supported what I do, and you've shared how much you love lore with other people in your life. That truly and honestly means the world to me. And don't worry, Lore isn't done yet. My team and I have an amazing list of episodes planned out for the next couple of years. We have advertising partners to fund it all, and our membership communities on Patreon and Apple Podcasts are still there to help you get the best listening experience possible. I am so grateful that you showed up to listen to my stories. Thank you for 10 years of multiple dreams come true. And thanks for being as excited as I am for what's still to come. So enjoy your day. Pat yourself on the back for a job well done. And as always, stay spooky.